When I was growing up, whenever my mom made homemade bread, I was so excited. I could smell it all around the house. I knew something amazing was happening in the kitchen. I needed to go have a slice of that homemade bread. But as I got older and grew up, I just thought, oh, making bread is so hard. You have to let it rise, and they say till it's doubled. What does that mean? How do I know it's doubled? I always felt so intimidated by that. And just the length of time it has to rise twice, and you have to knead it forever, and it makes your arms hurt. So I just never thought that bread making was for me. And I just thought, this is too hard, too much work. It's too confusing, too ambiguous. What does this double mean? What does it even mean? And I just never wanted to make bread. And I occasionally made bread when my kids were little, in the beginning of our family time, but very seldom until I had a change of circumstances, or I should say, I had a change in my family and my experience and my health. So one day, oh, this was about 18 years ago, I woke up one morning and I just had this weird pain, like right in the middle of my chest. And it just kind of was this weird ache, and it felt like there was trapped air, like a bubble, and I couldn't quite get it to move and release. I was like, what is this? This is so strange. Well, as the week progressed, it got worse and stronger and more painful. I was losing my appetite. I felt nauseated and I was in a lot of pain. I was bent over. I couldn't stand up straight. And my husband was like, you need to go to the doctor. This isn't getting better. This is getting worse. By then it was Friday, and my doctor said, I think you might have a problem with your gallbladder. I think you're having a gallbladder attack. And all the things that are all this, the signs, the symptoms are kind of lining up, and my lab work was like crazy Billy Rubin count. And he said, yeah, I think this is what that is. We need to do surgery on Monday. And we're going to have you go to I think I went to a radiologist, and they're going to scan me and take a look inside of me. But because it was Friday afternoon in a little town, there was nobody available to read the results, to read the scans that this technician had taken care of. So no higher up radiologist to look at it. So I had to just wait till Monday. And the doctor said, you can either just stick it out, rough it out at home, stay hydrated, stay comfortable till Monday, or we could check you into the hospital and you'll have an IV, you'll be monitored, and you'll be taken care of. And I was like, how many hundreds of dollars would that be? I think I will stay home. So I stayed home, of course. I felt like I was dying. But anyhow, I survived through the grace of God, prayer, and some nutritional things that I tried at home. I woke up, I had a pretty terrible Sunday night. I was like super dehydrated and just sipping smart water all night long. But I did finally fall asleep, and I woke up and I stood up. I had no pain. The pain was gone. And I was like, I think I'm going to be okay. So the miracle was I was okay. And I had to convince my doctor, but it was like Jedi wave, and he agreed with me. And I avoided surgery, and that was 18 years ago. And I've had zero gallbladder problem ever since. But as I recovered and I was able to finally start to eat food again, I was eating saltines with mashed avocado, and it was like a gourmet meal. It was amazing after so many days of not being able to eat anything and feeling so nauseated and sick. And like I was dying, like I said. And I was like, how do I die with dignity? This is terrible. But and then strawberries were amazing, and tuna fish, like all these delicious foods that were supposed to be good for your gallbladder and help me to recover. And I did. And I am so thankful. So many years have gone by. But guess what? After I recovered, the next week, I was like, what else could I do for my diet and my health and support me, and that I never get this horrible gallbladder attack ever again? And at the time, I ate really well. I ate very lean, and I didn't eat much sugar, and like, boy, hardly any processed food. I was doing really great at that time in my life. And I had three kids, and just life was good. So it was kind of out of the blue. Why was I sick with this problem? And I thought, how do I avoid this? And I thought, well, something that I could improve is the bread that I eat. uh, I guess I have to make bread. And I also started making granola. And I use honey instead of sugar in both recipes. So then I was like, okay, whole grains, it's gonna be good. I started making bread, you guys, after so many years saying I would never make bread. And I started making bread. I had no mixer and I had to do it by hand, and it was just, man, it was tough. And I did that for probably a month or two. I'd make 4 loaves at a time, this great recipe. I'll share it at the end of this video. How about that? I'll put it in the comments and you can make this bread too. It's so good. Anyhow, um, but it was just funny because it suddenly the thing that I could not do, never do, I was doing weekly. I'd make 4 loaves at a time. Actually, my boys were little back then. I just had 3 kids, and my youngest was a year old. So I think those 4 loaves probably lasted a few weeks. Nowadays, actually, when all 6 of my kids were home, 4 loaves of bread would last maybe a week if I was lucky. But 18 years later, I'm still making bread. I'm still making bread. In fact, I brought one to show you. Oh, look at this loaf, you guys. Beautiful. And one of my secret ingredients is to put a little bit of sourdough starter. So I will share the recipe at the end of this podcast episode. But look at that. The circumstance didn't change as far as the concept of bread making. That stayed the same, but what changed? My thinking about bread making did change. And I suddenly saw fresh homemade bread. Oh, the aroma is so wonderful, isn't it? I saw that as a way to support my physical health and my family. So now it had new meaning. Making bread no longer seemed like this terrible drudgery that was so complicated and ridiculous that I could never do it. Suddenly, yeah, maybe I should make bread. I could do that. I could make time for that. I could make it happen and I would get better at it. And let me tell you, the recipe I started with, so different now. It has evolved so much over the last 18 years. Totally different recipe than what I started with. But it's really not that big of a deal, and I still make it happen almost every week. I'm grateful when my children don't consume a whole loaf in one day so that it can last a little longer. Sometimes if I'm really ambitious, I'll do back-to-back batches and then have 8 loaves and like cram it all in the freezer. So, the question today, is it a myth or a fact? Is it a myth or a fact that our circumstances are neutral? They actually are neutral. They're not good or bad until we think about it and give it meaning and assign it one of those labels, good or bad. So when we look at this little example I just shared with you of making bread, forever I thought this is impossible, too hard to do. It's so complicated. I can't do this. And then suddenly, for my health benefit, I should make homemade bread and avoid all these preservatives in the store-bought bread. Suddenly now it seems doable. And 18 years later, I'm making bread almost every week. So that's where I would like to submit that it is, in fact, a truth, a fact, that circumstances are neutral. It is our thinking about the circumstance that gives it an assignment, and it's individual. Somebody else could say, yeah, bread making still bites. I never want to do that in my life, but bring me some bread that you make and I'll eat it. Or someone else could say, oh, I love making bread and I do all this artisan sourdough and it's amazing and it's my way, my outlet, my escape, and it's wonderful. Great. We can all have a different opinion, and it might be different week to week, day to day. Today, I probably wouldn't feel like making bread because I was painting the living room. So then I might say, no, not today. I don't want to do that. That's the worst thing ever to do right now after painting the living room. So we can change how we think, and that changing how we think will alter how we feel in our body, in our nervous system, whether something is good or bad, whether it feels safe and I want it, I want to do it, or it feels terrible, get it away from me. It's up to us. Our nervous system will respond to how we think about the circumstance. So I submit as a life coach. My name is Michelle Cox. And as a life coach, and this is very common in the life coaching model and also in counseling and a lot of therapies, that the cognitive behavioral concept, what you think is how you feel. Therefore, the circumstance is a blank slate, and you get to write the story. You get to write the meaning. You get to create a decision and alter your and even alter your decision later on if you want, on whether something is good or bad, if it's a threat to you or not, if it's something you can handle, I can do this, or absolutely not, I can't pull it and I need to put the covers over my head and avoid it. So I'm going to do a quick little demonstration on my cognitive behavioral model that I call the thought cycle diagram. I want you to see how this works so that you can see how circumstances are neutral, which gives you so much power to then decide, do I want to stay here? Do I want to stay in this place of thinking that this circumstance is unmanageable and too hard and overwhelming? Oh, or do I want to calm my nervous system down, turn back on my thinking and reasoning part of my brain and say, actually, let me put it in a better framework. Let me look at it in a different way. Let me put it in a different perspective. Maybe it's not so bad after all. Or maybe this is still a bad thing and I need to get out. And this is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to take care of myself and protect myself and my family, my loved ones, and I'm going to exit this story. But we want to do it from a sense of, I am clear, I have thought this through, I see the bigger picture, and this is how I'm going to handle it. So let's put this up here in the model so you can see how this works, because I want you to be able to do this yourself so that when you are feeling that anxiety, that overwhelm, that, oh, this is too hard, too big, everything is wrong. But you can start to see, I have power and influence in my life. I'm not a victim. I'm not a puppet that something else is pulling the strings. In fact, I am a powerful being as a human. I have thinking power that is beyond anything else in the animal kingdom. And I have an opposable thumb, so I can get to work and do the things that need to be done to make my life better. And if I can't change everything in my circumstance, I can tap into that resilience that is rooted deeply inside of me, guided by my thinking, this higher brain that says, this is tough, but I'm strong. This is a hard thing, but I am capable of enduring. I am capable of seeing through to the other side of this challenge. And I'm going to see what I do have control of in the meantime to make things a little more bearable. And I'm going to see where I can improve things. I can work on relationships. I can love myself better. I can gain a skill. I can go back to school. I can do whatever I need to do. And I have power and capacity. I'm not weak. I'm not helpless. That's the power of your mind and your belief and helping you to make changes and do incredible things in your life. So even though bread is just bread, I could buy it from the store if I needed to. But for my health, after having that health crisis with my gallbladder having major problems for a brief period of time, thankfully I fully recovered. But that was one thing I saw I could do better to help my health be better, support myself better, make bread, which had seemed impossible. So let's go through the cycle, shall we? Let's see how this works. It's kind of like a game show. It's kind of like a magic trick. I love this. So if I'm going to put here in the cloud, the circumstance was bread making. And you can put in here cleaning a bathroom. Does that feel impossible sometimes? Or mopping the floor in the kitchen. That's one of my least favorite things to do, mopping. Oh, sorry people, but I do not like mopping. But I could change how I think about it and change how I feel. So let's do that for another episode. I'm going to do some self-coaching and I'm going to resolve my problems with mopping and I'm going to love it. Okay? So we'll do that another time. But from here, I'm just going to go off of the story I shared at the beginning, making bread. Okay. So, bread making. It's just something that some people do. You just throw some ingredients together, right? I've got water, yeast, not sugar. Well, I guess I put a little bit to make the yeast proof. And then I like to throw in some oats and some sourdough starter and honey and oil and salt. I like to put blackstrap molasses a little bit in there, some more nutrients. I mean, you can do whatever, right? Sometimes I'll put different kinds of flours, whatever. Whole wheat flour, I love you. So it's just a thing that people can do. It's a circumstance. It's just a thing that exists in the world. People make bread. Bread is one of my favorite things. When I've traveled a lot growing up, that was always one of our favorite things in a different country. We traveled a lot in Europe because we lived overseas. We got to try the bread at every country that we went to. Try the bread. Find a bakery. If anyone's going to Italy this summer, go eat the bread and the gelato. All right. So, but our thoughts about it, my thoughts in the beginning of the story, it's impossible. Okay. I was like, this is too confusing. It's impossible. It's too much work. Too much work. Takes too long. And I was just totally baffled by the whole doubling concept. I'm like, how do you know it's doubled? I can't tell. It's in a bowl. How much of, I mean, the dimensions are changing, so I don't get it. So that was my thinking. So as I'm thinking that, how am I feeling? I was kind of angry about it. I didn't want to try it. I was kind of like bothered that it was confusing and hard to understand. I actually was a little bit angry about bread, about making bread. I didn't want to do it. So I was kind of in fight mode about it. I just get kind of like, why is it so hard? It tastes so good. I'm so mad that it's so much work. And I was angry and I was also kind of frustrated and discouraged. This is too hard, right? Whenever we start throwing this word out there, too much, too hard, too heavy, too overwhelming. Woo, we can get really frustrated. We feel really far away from the skill set that would make it work out well. I felt very, very far away from the skill set of making bread at that time, 18 years ago. I was like, I don't know how people do this. And at the same time, one of my really, really good friends was an incredible baker. She even had a booth at the farmer's market here in our town, and she would have beautiful breads and bagels and scones. And I mean, everything you could imagine. She'd spend 2 solid days baking every week for the farmer's market and sell out. And it was just incredible. And I was like, how does she do that? I don't know how she does that. It's amazing. So I'd feel kind of frustrated and just, I never want to do it. So if I think this, it's impossible, too much work, takes too long, kind of angry about it, I don't want to try it, then what's my action going to be? I'm not going to do it, right? No baking. I'm not going to do it. No trying to learn. That's my action. So whatever I'm thinking about my circumstance is going to affect how I feel. It's going to influence how I behave. And my behavior was like, not going to do it. Don't even ask. And so the result was I didn't bake bread. I wasn't learning. I had no skill. So there's no skill development. Still confused. Because I didn't have experience. I wasn't having experience and therefore developing confidence. So that's how we gain confidence, is by doing something, not researching it 100 times and then we'll have confidence. Then we go forward. Confidence is built out of trying it, doing it, seeing what doesn't work, trying it again, coming from a different angle, seeing what was different this time. It worked better this time, but not that time. So what was the difference? Troubleshooting, all of that. That takes this part of the brain, which we've got to be calm, we've got to be better in or more adjusted back into a state of safety before we can really figure it out and do troubleshooting. If we stay in our emotional survival part of the brain, we're just not going to try. We're not going to be as good at thinking about a new solution, trying it a different way, and wanting to keep at it till we get better at it and feel proficient. So, this is the result. This is the cycle that I was stuck in for a long time. Okay, not such a big deal. But then I had the gallbladder attack and I was very sick. I felt like I was dying. It was a total miracle that, that I survived and didn't even have to have surgery. And then I could think, okay, well, how do I avoid that from happening again? That was not fun at all. So I'm going to erase the board because my premise today is that it is a fact that circumstances are neutral. They're neutral, they just exist. And it isn't until we start thinking about it and our nervous system is triggered either into fight, flight, freeze or into staying in safety mode and everything's fine. What's our nervous system doing with this circumstance as we're thinking about it, as we're interacting with it, and kind of an instinctive response, right? So after I got better and I realized the store bread I'm buying has a gazillion ingredients. It says whole wheat, but then a friend was telling me, yeah, they just dye it brown. It's not really whole wheat bread. It's just like the same garbage as everything else. They just dye it. And I was like, are you serious? And her husband worked in a supermarket, so I was like, oh boy. So now, in a new frame of reference, I have a new perspective on bread making. It's the same process, the same ingredients, give or take. You can always adjust it how you want. But my thinking about it changed. The value I put on it changed because now I had an incentive to not almost die of a gallbladder attack. I wanted to stay well. And I wanted to have a full and happy life. So now bread making seems like an avenue to reach that goal and to be well and to do fine in my life. So now bread making, I think I can do that. Yeah, it's going to take some time, but I can make time for it. I can squeeze it in. And best of all, I will learn. I'll learn as I go. How about that? Hmm. So now with that new way of thinking about this circumstance of bread making, now I have a different emotional response in my body. My brain is sending a different signal. I no longer have cortisol, which is stress, the stress hormone. Now I'm feeling kind of confident. Maybe I'm feeling kind of excited to try something new. So I'm going to feel kind of excited. I want to avoid illness. I feel hopeful. And now I'm talking to myself as far as my ability to learn, my ability to advance in my life and have that control to that degree, then I'm gonna feel some confidence. I will learn. So, like I was saying, you have to do things in order to gain confidence. The amazing part of your brain is that you can imagine yourself successful. You can imagine yourself doing the thing and gain confidence before even doing it. That's where visualization is so powerful. You imagine yourself doing this thing that feels too hard and too difficult and too confusing, but you imagine yourself doing it. Just seeing it in your mind, you're building neural pathways and new connections, and your brain starts to store it as truth and information of the past. You'll have it stored in there. I've made bread before, and you really haven't. You've just imagined it. That's the beauty of our brains, that we get to be so much more in control, and that our brains are so much more malleable than we give ourselves credit and some leeway. Things don't have to stay the same. Our skill set doesn't have to stay the same. Our lack of confidence doesn't have to stay the same. We can gain confidence just imagining something. I love doing that with a client, helping them to draw pictures and doodle it and draw a picture of what the good positive outcome would be. And their brain begins to store that as truth. That happened. Now I know how to do it. I've got ability. I have skill. I'm going to go do it now because I did it yesterday, even though you just drew it on a paper. so, um, so that's something that I've really loved to do with clients and help them to start to build a little bit of that hope and overcome some of that anxiety and start working towards that feeling of confidence. So if I have confidence, excitement, I'm hopeful because I think I can do that. I'll learn. I can make time for it. Then what am I going to do now? What's my action? I'm going to make bread. Look at that. I'm going to go do it. And then what's the result? Well, I become an excellent baker. Over the years, 18 years, I can tell you how to make bread. I don't need a recipe. I don't need to look at it. I can just tell you what to do. I've done it so many times. I can become an excellent baker. I can support my health. What a blessing that I've had such good health ever since then. I've never had that gallbladder problem again. I can support my health and I can develop that skill of baking. And as I have this skill developing and I'm supporting my health, it continues to feed that belief that I can do it. I can make time for it. I do. I have been for 18 years. And I have been learning as I go. I've made many different types of bread in the process in the meantime, and I've gotten much better at it. And so, and it's a source of satisfaction when I can pull this delicious bread out of the oven and set it on the cooling rack and then slice it up and we have it for lunches and grilled cheese sandwiches and you name it. and my husband makes his lunches for work with delicious homemade bread. What a special thing. I get to do that for my family. And when my older boys come home to visit, I think they're pretty excited about homemade bread. um, so that's what I wanted to share today. Is it a myth or a fact? Is it myth or fact? Circumstances, are they neutral? Or are they determined by some external force and or some council somewhere in some locked up tower somewhere? They have long beards and they sit there writing down all the circumstances you could possibly have, and they're like, that's a bad one. Oh, that's a good one. No, people should not have any hope about that one. That one is for despair. That one, yeah, that's easy, no big deal. Nobody else is deciding it. You are. If you want to overcome challenges in your life, you want to feel like you can handle it, you can work through, you can find a way through, you can bring up a hard conversation, you can improve a relationship, you want to feel that way, you have to believe it first. Bread is bread. You, in your relationships, in how you're handling serious challenges, health problems, maybe unemployment, family members who are in a crisis, the economy is affecting your work, your I don't know, there's just tons of things that I could think of that are difficult and are challenging. And you can find that glimmer of hope. You can find peace. You can find courage and resilience as you look at it from a different perspective. What can you do? What can you control? What can you change? What can you have influence over concerning that circumstance? The biggest thing is how you think about it, but also even more, how you think about yourself. Because as you notice, the examples up there, I can do that, I can make time for it, but it's really about your belief that you are physically able to do it. You are physically capable of learning something new. You're physically capable of getting up in the morning and saying, this is my life. I'm going to make the most of it. I'm going to find joy in my life, even when it's hard. And the things that are hard might feel less hard. The things that seem impossible, you'll start to get glimmers of, oh, I could do this. I could work on it this way. I could handle it. I can find a resource. I can ask for help. I can get support. I can talk to someone who's been there and done that, and they can give me their story, and maybe there's something there for me. That hope to keep going and not to give up is the most important thing out of everything. The circumstance doesn't need to change before you have hope and belief that you are capable of moving through it and standing strong and being a better person on the other side, because now you have this wisdom and experience that you can share with others and lift them up. So I want you to take this to heart. I want you to think about how this cycle can help you. What's hard in your life? What is causing you to feel so stuck and heavy and discouraged? What is it? Try it out. You can put it in the model. You can grab yourself a copy on Amazon. This workbook will show you how to use the model. You can do it at home. You can understand the nervous system better. You can explore your values. You can explore nervous system regulation techniques that help your nervous system to calm down. And you can figure it out. You can learn how to use it. There's a whole example in this book. And it's on Amazon. I'll put the link in the comments. But I want you to see how you can find ways to regulate yourself. Don't let your anxiety guide you. Let you guide your anxiety. You're the boss. You're the one creating anxiety in your body. You're the one who's going to be able to put it to rest. So check it out. And I hope to see you again next week on Let's Talk.